Alright guys, good morning. Welcome back to Good Time Hauler Homestead. Today is my first ever garden tour. So bear with me, I'm new to all of this. I'm usually sharing the garden with those who come over, and now I'm sharing it with you guys. So let's go. This door was originally going to be a wrought iron door, but I could just not find one anywhere near here. So we started thinking and decided to use the woods that we have to make our own little cottage type door. And I'm already in love with it. Here are my poor strawberries. As you can see, we got ourselves some fake snakes because we read that snakes in the garden will kind of scare off rabbits, and we're pretty sure that's what's been getting the majority of our plants out here. But back to our strawberries. They are obviously being devoured. They are getting some new growth, which is great news if the rabbit will stay away. So hopefully the snake does help. And we're gonna look for some other options to help keep the rabbits out. I actually saw the rabbit this morning when I pulled back in after dropping the kids off, and it's just a wild cottontail rabbit. It's really pretty, but it's eating all my stuff. So, you know, I love animals, so I'd rather not just kill a wild animal because it's getting into our stuff. So the snakes, the fake snakes, and any other options other than killing the rabbit is what I'm looking into doing. We know people with live traps, so if it comes down to it, then we may just do that and move the rabbit to a new home. But I feel like that might be an issue because where we live, there are so many wild rabbits right now. If you've seen my morel mushroom hunting video, I'll link that up here if you haven't. But if you have seen it, then you know that we've already seen a wild rabbit baby nest with the fur pulled and all. So there's a lot of little rabbits running around right now. So we might need quite a few of those live traps to actually eradicate the issue. Here is our first trellis. Obviously it looks very bare right now, but hopefully it will fill out pretty soon. We actually had, so here we have a red noodle bean that is just kind of dying on us. And then we have little potato cucumbers planted because our red noodle beans were eaten by the rabbits. If you can't tell, here's the stem that's left. It has one tiny new leaf down here. I don't know if you can see that very well. Yeah, right there. So I've been just kind of hoping and praying that something comes of it, and I haven't pulled it yet or replaced it with anything else. Then we also have some kale that has been taking forever to grow, and I'm sure most of our plants are just having a hard time because of all of this rain and the heat of the spring has already kicked in to full force. But look how pretty that is. This is scarlet kale. So it's got that real neat purple color to it. And just look how pretty it is with those water drops on it. Tried kale with the kids last year for the first time, really. I'm not a fan of raw kale, really, because most of the kale I've ever tried has been store-bought. I've actually never grown it, and it's just bitter to me. I have heard that after a frost it's a lot sweeter, or if it's grown in a very cool spring, it's sweet. So I'm hoping that we get to try that at some point. Probably not going to happen this year. Well, it might happen this fall, but definitely not this spring, because this spring has been getting so hot so fast. We've been up in the 80s, close to the 90s already this year, and I don't think the kale is liking it much, along with most of our other plants. But we did try kale for the first time as kale chips, and my kids loved it. They loved it, loved it. So that's why I decided I wanted to plant kale this year. We could make up some kale chips and they could have a nice little snack. And it's a lot healthier. Hopefully these 2 kale plants will actually produce us something. If not, we'll replant in the fall and hope for a better crop then. So here is little potato cucumbers. I actually got these from M.I. Gardener, the seeds from M.I. Gardener, and we really like cucumbers, and these were just really neat. They actually look like a potato, so we kind of wanted to try them out just because they're different. So we've never tried them before. They're completely new, and as you can tell, they're also being eaten by something, but they're getting there. The first batch that I tried didn't even sprout, so that is a little better than what we started with. Here is that red noodle bean, and it's just not doing so great. It does have some new green leaves on it, which is good news, but the fact that it's just bent and laid over and turning yellow and spotted, it's just not a great sign. We were really excited to grow these because they were supposed to grow up this trellis and be so beautiful, and we like green beans, and these produce very long beans, but as you can tell, our beans are just not doing so great. And I only got 5 of these beans in a little seed swap, and every single one of the plants that I got is just not doing so great. Like, the first one is completely gone. That one's almost gone. Another one, and it's also being eaten and turning brown. One never made it at all. And then here is the last one. It's doing quite a bit better, but it also has that little bit of brown spotting, and I'm not 100% sure why. I don't know if it's just because of all the rain or what's going on, but I'm hoping to at least get one to grow so that it can produce some beans and we can save some seeds and try again next year. Jay got me a little hummingbird feeder, and actually I've only seen one hummingbird at it so far this year, but we did see a woodpecker at it. It was so funny because we thought only hummingbirds could get their beaks in there, but a woodpecker came over and was just going to town, sticking his beak in and then leaning his head back all the way and then just continuing back and forth. It was actually pretty funny. All right, so the inside of these trellises, or this trellis, I have just a gourmet mixture of lettuce, which is so crazy. I have the same thing on both sides. But the craziest part about it is this half of the lettuce and this half of the lettuce, both the front half of the lettuce on both sides of the walk, are doing way better than the second half of lettuce. And they were all planted at the exact same time, but the second half of lettuce over here, right here, you can barely even see the lettuce. It's just so tiny. See? So little compared to how big these ones are. And I mean, I don't understand. They're the same kind of lettuce, but this side is doing so great and so luscious. We actually harvested from this side over here, and since we've harvested, these have already grown dramatically. So maybe they just needed a little bit of a trim over here on this side. There's another one of our little fake snakes. Obviously, we're not going to kind of see this kind of snake in the garden, but the kids helped us pick out the snakes. So whatever works, right? So we have this gourmet lettuce, and I tried to plant Lola Rosa lettuce, and I had, I don't know how many attempts I did. I think like 4 or 5 different attempts. And I still never got any of those out of it. Uh-oh. This is one of my lettuces, and something has eaten everything off of it. That's not good. Look at this, guys. I just have weeds growing everywhere. It's terrible. This isn't the cleanest garden tour, because you can obviously see all of my weeds that need to be picked. But that's just part of life, right? If you don't have weeds to be picked, then you have some kind of crazy garden, and you need to tell me how to do it, because this is just an everyday thing with my garden. I swear, I come out here every day and I pick weeds every single day. We also have, as you can tell, some rabbit manure in here. We actually just kind of sprinkled some on here all throughout the garden to help give some fertilization into the plants, just some natural fertilizer for them. Here are just our regular pickling cucumbers, and oddly enough, they're already beginning to flower and they have not vined up any. So that is completely new to me. I've not seen that happen before. Last year these vined so well, but this year they are just now starting to really grow. But they already have some flowers on them, and I don't even see one tendril. So I'm not sure. But these have male and female flowers, so you actually have to have both flowers in order to get the fruit. So I'm not actually too concerned about there already being flowers on them, because unless they have both male and female flowers, we won't see any kind of fruiting just yet. Down here it looks very bare, I will admit that, and that's not because I wanted it to be bare, but because this weather has really set us back on a lot of our plants already this year. Here we have African daisy blue disc flowers, and they were already a good 3 or 4 inches tall, and then something came in and just wiped them out completely. But as you can tell, there are lots of new ones coming in. Jalen came in about a week ago and helped me replant all of the areas that we got hit with either rabbits or some other kind of pest, where they just destroyed all of our plants. So we have a lot of very small new starts coming in. but it'll be fun to see what they look like in a week. All this rain that we've had and all the storms and stuff has really kind of set us back this year as to getting everything into the garden. And we've had some issues with a lot of our plants already, not only due to pests, but because of the weather. But last year, we didn't start our garden until the middle of June. So I know that we are still gonna have, oh, I just saw a hummingbird. Huh, sorry guys, I couldn't catch it, it's too fast. But I know that we are going to have a good year, and I know the plants are going to be able to grow. It's just a matter of having the patience to allow the plants to grow, or coming out and replanting those that we've lost. We've got a lot of space here, and I still have a lot of seeds left inside, so if I need to replant, then we can totally do that. We've got a lot of expectations and hopes for this garden. And hopefully you guys are along for the long haul and can enjoy it with us. You guys will get to see all of the progress of these tiny little started plants that look like nothing right now except for an empty garden. And here in maybe a month, our trellises might be completely full. This side, it also looks really bare, but that's because we had yarrow planted, Colorado mix yarrow, and it was eaten by something. Oh my gosh, guys, there's so many weeds out here. But hopefully there will be some really pretty flowers in here. And if the yarrow doesn't grow, then we will come back and fill it in with something else to make it pretty, so that there's not just this empty space in between the two trellises here. On the inside of this trellis, we have some weeds. We actually have cantaloupe or muskmelon planted. We have golden delicious muskmelon planted all along the inside of this trellis so that it can vine up. And we also have it planted on this other side too, just along the inside. We had them planted and then they were eaten. And I mean, they were eaten overnight. They just were devoured. So we came back out and we just replanted straight into the garden this time. And so they're going to grow up this. And we actually grew giant watermelon on a trellis last year. So we know that these little personal size melons will do great. We did a 20-pound watermelon on a trellis. And then right here in the very front of this, we actually don't have anything planted just yet. But I'm still deciding what to really put right there. It's going to be a shaded area, so I was thinking about what kind of shaded plants we have that we can put there. So if you have any ideas of what you think we should put there, leave it in the comments below. The teepee and Jay's little skull up top. So over here we have our loofahs, and they have had a pretty rough go at it. We've also got some more still ready to go in. I was just actually waiting for those other ones to get quite a bit bigger, because these ones were put in still pretty young and they've just been struggling. So the other ones I was waiting. So this whole bed is peppers and flowers. And what we did was we planted one specific type of pepper and then flowers or another plant like onions and plants for maybe okra or something in here, just to kind of separate the peppers and to help kind of keep down cross-pollination. The ones that we plan on saving seeds, we'll probably actually just bag the flowers so that we know for a fact they haven't been cross-pollinated. But to kind of help, we decided to plant in between each pepper section. And there's a lot of different kinds of peppers, and I don't want to bore you guys with all of the different names of peppers, but there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different types of peppers in this row here. Most of them are real spicy. Some of them are kind of a mild pepper, but these are our hotter peppers that we planted in this row here. This year we chose to do these red burgundy bush beans, and I honestly picked them just because of this color. I heard when you cook them, they actually lose the purple color. But they're really pretty to see in the garden with this purple color and their cool looking leaves. And it kind of gives a little bit of contrast to just the white flowers and green bushy regular green beans here. I have some lemon balm started in the greenhouse that we'll be putting into this tire. We know, say hi, Jara.
Hi.
We know that it is kind of an aggressive plant and it will kind of just take over. So that's why we wanted to plant it in a tire so that it has its own designated area. Is butternut squash growing. I'm not huge on squash, so we only planted a couple. We do have family that likes squash, and Jay likes it. So we have some butternut squash, just 2 plants here. And then we have some zucchini. My mom loves zucchini. Once again, not a huge fan of it. Stir fries maybe, but not just for, like, I'm not a huge fan of the fried zucchini and fried squash, but I do know a lot of people that do like it. So there's some zucchini there, and there's another one planted. It just hasn't come up just yet. And then we also have some straight neck squash over here. It hasn't come up on this side yet, but there's one plant right there. Just a couple of squash and zucchini because I'm not a huge fan, and we know that they're pretty prolific, so we don't just want an abundance of something that we're not going to eat. We have some sweet peppers that need to go in the ground, and we also have some lemon jalapeno peppers, as well as habanero peppers that have not been put in yet either. And I think that's what we're going to do. I heard that planting pepper plants in between your okra plants actually helps benefit both of the plants. So that's what we're going to attempt here. So we have this little square area. I don't know if you can really see the outline, but there's okra right here. And then there's sunflowers, and then there's okra right here. So this little open area right here, we're going to plant right there in between it. Bless you. And hope that it works really well. And we have just a couple of different kinds of okra planted along this whole bed right here. But last year we had okra planted. There just wasn't enough of it all at one time. We had, I think, about 9 plants, and it just wasn't enough to pick all at one time. So this time we really wanted to make sure we had enough come off of it all at once, so that way we can do fried okra or pickled okra. And okra is just such a beneficial plant, so that's the plan there. These are actually mammoth sunflowers. They can get as big as 1 foot in diameter of a head on them. So we're pretty excited to see these. They're supposed to just grow so tall, probably as tall as me, if not taller. This bed is our tomato bed. We're also going to have probably a few sweet peppers in the bed with them down on the far end over there. But on this whole side, from that end all the way down, is tomato plants, which there's a little section in the middle that doesn't look like there's anything there, and that's because they were destroyed. Some of them are still coming back, so they're just tiny little sprouts, and then some of them are gone completely, so we're gonna have to go back in and replant those. But for the most part, our tomato plants are doing very well. They're starting to get pretty tall. Almost tall enough to be able to reach the little fence trellis that we've got going on here. And a lot of them are already setting flowers, which I'm okay with because they've been in the ground for over a month now. They're really starting to get settled in and starting to get those flowers on them. We've had some pests, but we are really working on getting the pests out of the way. Like I said, all of this water we've been having has just been like feeding grounds for everything that can go wrong with the garden. Over here we have what I call our peanut gallery because it's peanuts. Here are our potatoes, which we are actually just using hay to cover them, so that way we don't actually have to dig them out. I did have a lot of fun last year digging out our potatoes, but I thought this would be a neat way and I thought we'd try it out. So we're just kind of stacking hay up as the plant gets taller and taller and doing it that way to see how it works. Back here behind me is actually melons, pumpkins, and corn. So we're gonna have like our own little mini cornfield. The plan is to have about 200 corn. We are going to do glass gem popcorn, which is really pretty, and we're really excited to see them actually produce. And then peaches and cream sweet corn, which is an all-time favorite of ours. So we really wanted to make sure we had a lot of corn. Last year, if you've been following me on here or if you've followed us on Instagram, our corn was attacked by cows. There's a farm right up the road from us, and their entire herd of cows got out and strutted down the road, and they saw that we had this lush garden of passion fruit and watermelon and corn and all of these other things, and they just had themselves a little feast. So and they came down a couple of times actually. They got out and then they ate all our stuff, and then they got out a couple of days later and they were back down trying to eat our stuff again. And we did get one ear of corn last year after all of the cow fiasco, but what is one ear good for? We can't just all split that. So we really wanted to go for it this year and make sure we had plenty of corn. So we have like this whole back section behind me that's going to be filled with corn, but we're going to succession sow the corn. We don't want all of the corn to produce at the exact same time so that we have 200 ears of corn to try to figure out what to do with. So as of right now, we've got about 20 of each planted, and then we'll probably do about 20 every single week until we hit our 100 mark, and then just let it go from there. And hopefully we'll actually get some good corn out of it this year. Over here, first of all, excuse our tin mess. Like I said, that's going to be a chicken coop, so just bear with us, guys. We have pumpkin plants. Last year, we had pumpkins planted, but then a tractor came by to do some line work on our electrical lines and drove over our pumpkin plants. And then we had this like big rainstorm and just lots of rain over a few days, and we ended up with powdery mildew. And the one pumpkin that finally started to grow ended up probably a good size, about the size of a personal melon, and then it died. So I was really upset. These are not eating pumpkins. They're just a Howden pumpkin. They're just for carving. My birthday is in October, really close to Halloween, and carving pumpkins has always been something that I love to do. We really like to make like a whole scene out of it. So I thought it would be really cool to be able to grow our own pumpkins to carve, because we buy pumpkins every year that are doing really good. This one has a little bit of a yellow leaf going on, but that's one of its earlier leaves. The rest of it is pretty green still, if you can't tell here. So this one is the yellowish one that's not doing so great. And then the rest of it is looking pretty good. This is our watermelon patch. We know they need lots of room to kind of just sprawl out, so that's why this back area of the garden is just so open. We actually have 9 or 10 watermelon plants in here. I believe 5 of each. We have 5 rattlesnake watermelon, which are just some big green, yellow stripe watermelon, red flesh, you know, just your average big watermelon. And one, though, is Moon and Stars watermelon, and this is why I wanted to grow it so bad, because look at those leaves. They're so cool. They have these little yellow spots on them, and the melons will also have that. So the melons will be this dark green color and have these little yellow spotting on them, and that's why it's called Moon and Stars, because some of the spots will be really big and then some will be really tiny like stars. But I'm pretty excited to grow those ones. That one seems to be our best watermelon plant so far over here. Little tiny corn sections. We have one on this half over here, and then a little section on this half over here. And I actually have this fencing. All the rain knocked it down, so we have to come back and stick it back in. But this little picket fence was the only piece we had, so we actually looked around and tried to figure out what we wanted to do with it. So what we're going to do is we're going to stake it down, and we're going to plant morning glories in front of it, and it'll be like the entrance into the little tiny mini cornfield back here. So it'll have these really neat, variegated, mixed colored morning glories, and then a ton of giant corn stalks behind it. So, well guys, the garden is not very full, and it kind of looks like pretty puny right now. But hopefully in a few weeks, after you guys see a couple of more garden tours, you'll really get to see some good growth, and we'll get this garden all filled up, and it'll be just as beautiful as we are hoping it will be, and as prolific as well. We would really like to get some good harvests in. These plants will grow so fast. So if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to comment down below on what you think we should put in those bare areas, or in the inside of that third trellis where it's going to be kind of shaded. And if you haven't already, please subscribe and tell your friends. Bye guys.